Hey everyone, Margarita here. I want to talk a little bit in this video about why I've kept my entire life off of the internet until recently releasing all of these different videos. So there's several reasons why I've always kept my life off the internet, why I've never had any social media. And one of the biggest reasons that I never got involved in any of this was due to the fact that when social media eventually came out, my deranged mother was already having people follow me around for several years prior to social media ever even becoming a thing. And then also smartphones still weren't out yet, but, so people couldn't just like video or take pictures the way you can now. So when things started to change and technology started to shift and all that started to come out, I chose to keep my life off of the internet and never have social media because I was also very busy. And if you watch some of my previous videos, I talk about my different streams of income and before my injury, how I was working 2 to 3 times as fast as a regular person, how fast I was building success, and I was having to keep up and accommodate all the decades of ongoing chaos and crimes that my mother was committing behind the scenes, which was causing me to have to work harder and faster and rebuild, and she's causing all these financial wipeouts with her delusional phone call placing. So because of all that, and because I was always so very busy and I always owned numerous homes, and then I had my kids, and then I had all these things going on, and I spent a significant amount of time working. But because of all that, I didn't have time to mess with social media. I didn't have time to play with it or do stuff with it. I was busy working and doing things in reality, building success in reality, and I did not need the internet to do that. So initially when I got started in the adult entertainment industry, smartphones were still not a thing. Social media was not a thing. And I made my money in person. So I know that times have changed. It's a lot different today. And a lot of people in that industry, they all have social media, and that's how they make more money. They bring more customers and such. But when I got started in this industry, that's not how it was. And, it wasn't even smartphones. It was just maybe regular cell phones. I don't even think the cell phones took pictures back then. But I made my money in reality. So I met people in reality. I worked at busy establishments where there was always a steady flow of customers coming through the door. I was always very busy. I never even had my phone out while I was working because I was so busy, whether I was waitressing, bartending, or dancing. I never even had my phone out. So I spent all those years doing that and just living life in reality. There was no need to grow a social media or need to bring customers in using a social media. I never needed to do that all those years. So that's how I went about things. And the other reason is because I needed to keep my life private due to the fact that my deranged mother was always stirring up trouble in the background, always trying to gather information on me. And she's using all these little bits of information she's gathering on me maliciously, criminally. She's using these bits of information to slowly try to access my missing stolen trust fund, to grow a false narrative about me, tell people things that aren't real. And there was already people following me around and such. So I definitely didn't want anything I have going on in life on the internet. So I kept myself completely off the internet all of these years. Even once that change happened and social media was more popular and cell phones became smartphones and it was more normalized, I still operated that same way. I did not change with the technology. I still operated my entertainment business the same way. Still, I keep my phone locked up. It's not a place. It's too busy and it's too fast paced to keep track of a phone in that industry. So I always kept it locked up in my locker. And initially, people would try to steal it. I mean, I think they still do today, but it was more common before they started putting locks on devices. But people would try to steal it, and there's just not really time to accommodate that in with how busy and fast paced that type of industry is. So I always kept it locked up. I never had it out. And that's how I went about my life. And I made all of my money in reality the entire time. So with my mom having all these different people following me around, causing all these problems, trying to gather information, I definitely just kept my entire life private. Nothing about my life whatsoever was put on the internet. I didn't even I had my Facebook page in 2019. I believe it was the beginning of 2019. And it's because I started a baby gift basket business and I was shipping them out. So, because I was completely homebound at this point, I was already injured and I had to create a personal Facebook page to get the business page. That's why I created it. And I started actually friending people in real life that I either knew or did know at the time or whatever, people that I actually knew in reality, because I knew I was going to be exposing these decades of crimes eventually down the line. I just didn't know when. So I was growing it at that time with the intent of coming out with these videos. I didn't know if it was going to take 5 years, 10 years. I just didn't know. And now it's actually been like 7 years. So that was the only social media I had. And even then, there's no pictures of me or anything about what I'm actually doing in life or anything on there. There never was. So that's, that's just how I kept it all along. So I had to keep my life private for all of these reasons. And I can only imagine if I actually had social media, my life would have been blown apart even further. I would have never been able to take some of the steps that I was able to take and some of the businesses I was able to grow, some of the money I've been able to make. It probably would have further been destroyed more than it already has been, because she's managed to destroy every single business I've ever had, forced me from 3 homes that I've owned, got to come back to this one though. And it's all due to her jealousy, the envy, how vindictive and spiteful she is. That's why all those things are going on. So there was no room for error and no room to have anybody have any information on me. And I just never engaged in that type of thing. And so part of it was because of how busy I was and how I was making my money. There just wasn't time for that. And then even when times changed and social media was more prevalent in the entertainment industry, because you still can't just come in there videoing people without their consent either, because it is an adult establishment. You can't just come in there and video record freely. So even when that did happen, by the time it started to become more popular, I was already severely injured. I became severely injured in 2018. That was my second brain injury. And I was barely able to walk, barely able to get from room to room in my house. The few times I worked before COVID, I was barely able to get there, barely able to do what I did, and barely be able to get back. And it was COVID that provided me enough relief and the time and the pay to be able to go through treatment as long as I did, so I could eventually work the little bit that I did after COVID. It was still very minimal. And because I was so sick and injured, it wasn't possible for me to do social media at work when that was more popular. It just wasn't possible. It already wasn't really possible because of how busy it was. But then once I became that sick and injured and I had trouble talking because I had knots of carbon monoxide loaded up in my brain, I didn't have speech therapy. I didn't have proper rest or recovery. I had inches of space between my brain and my skull. It was very severe, and I couldn't have incorporated that in if I wanted to. So I had to continue to go about things the way I always did. And even if I was trying to do social media at home, I still couldn't do it because of how severe the brain injuries were and how severe the injury was overall, and the continuous severe symptoms I was suffering from for all those years. So that's also a part of why I didn't do this any sooner, why I didn't expose this any sooner, why you didn't find me on social media any sooner. I didn't have the ability to do it. I was just in an extreme state of suffering for 3 years straight without one day of relief. And it was still a long road of a lot of pain and suffering and ups and downs from that day to this day. And it's still ongoing. I'm still treating to this day. I'm still treating the initial medical emergency and all the additional re-injuries. So it just was not possible with my injuries either to incorporate that in. And then as this was all going on, this is where my mother's crimes were amplifying, and more people were being brought in and inserting themselves in my life, following me around, bringing back information on me. It became very amplified once my injury happened. And it's because she really thought that I wasn't going to survive, because she took all the necessary steps to make sure that I didn't survive. And she didn't count on me being able to self-pay at a private facility, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket. And that's how my son and I got to live. So she was not expecting that to happen. And she brought in all these additional people and just thought she was gonna be able to take me out really fast. She had plans to make sure I became deceased and was using many different individuals to attempt to take me and get rid of me along the way. And so that was one of the issues I was having. There was just so many people following me around. It became even more risky. Now, like I said, when this all started 20 years ago, my mother was already doing this 20 years ago, back in 2007, 2008. This was already going on. It had just amplified to such an extreme degree after my injury, after 2018. So coming out of COVID and I started working a little bit more, this just amplified to such an extreme degree that it was already very risky just without me being on the internet at all. And so that's why I also did not engage in social media when it was more popular and people were making a lot more money in the industries I'm in using social media. I chose to just continue to stay off of it. And I was still very busy and I was still treating regularly. So all those things were still going on in my life. And I've lived in chaos my entire life. So there's no extra time to squeeze all these other things in that regular people get to do. I've never gotten to live a normal life. So those are all the reasons why I stayed off of social media. And by then I was heavily putting the crimes together, heavily gathering the information and the evidence along the way by the time that had amplified as well. And it just got really far out of control. So I chose to keep everything off of social media all along. And I knew everything was brewing in the background, and it was only a matter of time before I was going to make these videos. And I knew when I began to do that, I knew it was kind of all over, and I'm going to have to talk about everything, and I'm going to have to talk about all the different parts of my life and what's been going on and expose who I really am. And I knew all that was coming from the minute I decided, 7 years ago, that I was going to be making these videos. And this is how I was going to have to go about exposing everything. I knew that. It was just a matter of I had to get my life situated from all the different escapades and all the different financial wipeouts and all the repeated restarts that my deranged mother was causing me. I had to get all that stuff in order to be able to make these videos, in order to be able to use social media regularly, because that's a whole job in itself. It really is. And I don't get paid off of it. I don't believe I'll get paid until the case blows. Once arrests are made and this goes public, I believe the story will probably start to pay me. The different videos will probably gain traction at that time. But all during this and filming all this, no, I'm not going to make any money off of it. It's more about clearing my name, exposing the crimes, getting arrests made so matters can get situated and I can begin to pick up the pieces of my life, because every problem in my life along the way has been caused by my deranged mother's criminal actions and all the harassment and escapades, the delusional phone call placing behind the scenes, and all the people and agencies she's involved in causing me all these problems along the way. It's never stopped. It's been going on the whole time since I was left the trust fund in 1991. It just initially started with my teachers in school, and then it grew and grew and grew. So I knew that this is where it was headed. And my plans are very long term. Everything I have going on in life is planned out 5+ years in advance. Everything I have going on business wise and where my time is being spent, this was all in place long ago. Everything I have going on now was supposed to be running back, over 10 years ago. And the reason it's not is because my mother's crimes and escapades and all the people helping her and the agencies who've helped. So that's the reason why there's been so many setbacks and so much loss of time. But everything's been planned out all along, and I couldn't have squeezed these videos in any sooner than when I started filming 2 years ago. So I started filming in like June of 2024. I would have never been able to do it any sooner, and it was the damage to my house that allowed me to start filming, and basically the fallout of my mother's escapades and crimes, because the damage to my house is part of that fallout. And that's the reason I was able to start filming. So it's her own actions that allowed me the ability to start filming and start releasing the videos. So that's why I've kept my life off of the internet. But I do know that they're one of the people who was paid to become me. So there's been many people who've been following me around. I'd say the past like 5 years or so, and very heavily since my injury in 2018, and amplified even more over those several years up to today. So one of those people was paid to become me and started following me around and becoming me, like literally in my face. And she did make more than one fake social media. And I know she made a fake OnlyFans account, portraying it as me. I'm still waiting to find out if some of those videos and pictures are actually me, because she had the ability to get some pictures and videos without my knowledge, because like I said, in the entertainment industry, it is very fast paced. It's very busy. So it's very possible she could have actually gotten videos and pictures, because I did catch her videoing me at one point, about 4 years ago. So I'm still waiting to find out if those videos and pictures are actually me, or if it's her pretending to be me, or if it's a mix. So if it is actually, either way, if I can prove that that's her and she's pretending to be me, we already know that. And, there's proof of that as well in other forms. And then if it is actually me, or it's a mix of them, it's over. Everything's over. It's federal. The website takes it very seriously. It'll be over. That's where arrests will start to be made. So I'm still waiting to hear back on, if that's what it is or not. But I do know she was making fake social media accounts as me, portraying herself to be me, making it look like I'm this drunk prostitute doing all these things. And she created the OnlyFans with the intent of making that look like me. And this was done by whoever in my mother's criminal group brought her in, and the people in her group, because now we're talking two separate groups of people. Because these people are all connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. They're all connected back to my mother's criminal group, and there was a whole bunch of them doing this. But the one specific person was pretending to be me intentionally, so that way she could portray it and make it look like this is what I'm out here doing in life, when I've never even had social media. And there were several other accounts that she made. I don't know which sites, probably just the regular, I don't know if it's like Facebook or like Instagram or Snapchat maybe. I'm not sure. It's probably one of those. I know she made an account pretending to be me, at least one account, maybe more than one. And she was arguing with herself, pretending to be me and making others think that I was bullying her online and saying things. She was basically arguing with herself and making all these people believe I was doing all this stuff and saying all this stuff to her. And and I know this because of what people were coming up to me in person and doing. And all these people that were following me around, what was being said and done in my face and at the different places I've worked at. This was all going on. And this is actually what led to me not being able to work at the one main establishment I'd been at for a long time, because those people were all in on it. And it had went on for about 2.5 years. It had taken some time for that to actually be carried out. But at the root, she was paid by my mother's criminal group to do this. She was brought in to do this and make herself look like me to carry all of this out. So either way, I never had any social media. Those were all falsified social media accounts. And so like, I'll find out more. I'll talk more about this when I find out more, when I get to the bottom of all that. It's a matter of going back and forth a little bit, because I have to send kind of a lot of stuff back and forth to prove that what I'm saying and what's going on, because this is not a normal situation. This isn't content that I actually filmed or that I knew was being filmed of me in real life, and I have it on a site somewhere, because most people, when they steal other people's content, they're stealing it off the internet somewhere. Well, I don't have content anywhere on the internet. This was content that was stolen of me, like in person, and then put on the internet. So there's a little bit of a hiccup there, because all other cases, this stuff is usually done like taking it from other people's pages and such, and that's not my situation. It was stolen in person, illegally. So I'm working on that right now, and I'll be back with more on that. So I know that I am aware that that's what was being said and that's what was being done. And it kind of ties right in with Tony Baloney taking unauthorized sex videos as well. It's a possibility those videos could be on there. I'm not sure. I haven't found out yet. But I'm working numerous angles to figure out what exactly is on this site. So that's what's kind of going on. And it is meant to be me because it's my name. But I've never had anything on any site ever, literally just my Facebook page that I've had since 2019, all the way until I created my YouTube channel 2 years ago, like 1.5 years ago. And I did have 2 TikTok pages, but they both got completely wiped out. And I don't know if like the feds took them for evidence or what, because usually you get strikes on TikTok and warnings, and none of that happened. Everything disappeared. So I put a lot of work in, and I'm not going to redo those pages. So I currently do not have a TikTok. But so the only page I had was Facebook and the YouTube channel, and that's it. So if anybody's found information on me on the internet, that's not real either. If there's pictures and videos of me, it was taken illegally. If it's somebody that looks like me and it's not me, it's not me. Somebody pretending to be me. So that's kind of what's been going on. And all of these reasons are why I stayed off of the internet all along. And honestly, if I had been able to squeeze that into my life when social media was becoming a thing and gotten in kind of early in the game, because I'm so busy and I generate money so quickly and I do really well with it, I probably would have been able to make a lot of money doing it had I been doing it all along. And the only issue is I get so many stalkers so easily, and my deranged mother's up to no good and using all these different people to cause all these problems, that I was never able to do that. So if I would have been able to do that, and that's not what I had going on, my life probably could have taken, a different turn using social media in a really good way. And I could have generated some money along the way using it. But it was never an option for me because of what my deranged mother was doing. But I do know if I had used it the way everybody else is, I would have definitely been making money off social media a long time ago with the different streams of income that I've had along the way. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that and why I don't have social media, or why I didn't have social media. But now going forward, I'm only going to build from here. I'm going to open more accounts. The story's only going to grow. I'm going to put as much out there as I can and try to get as many videos up as I can before arrests are made, because it's going to become more chaotic after that happens. And I plan on everything eventually going viral. I just don't know how long. It won't be until after arrests are made. I do know that. But that's what I wanted to talk about. So I'm here for the long haul now. Thanks. Bye.